So, hello everybody and welcome. Yes, welcome back here at BSN Network. Can back here, BSN Network. This is the BSN Network podcast here today. It is Monday, March 29th. Hope having a good day so far and a good rest of their day yesterday. It is, in fact, Monday, March 29th here today. Hope everybody had a good weekend. We are coming out of another weekend full of sports, mainly full of college basketball. And the Rangers had two games over the weekend. We lost both of them. I said it on Friday or Thursday or whatever. I said Thursday I said it, I believe. Whenever I said it. I said if we want any chance of making the playoffs, we've got not necessarily any chance, but these games would be important to win, and we lose both games. I've talked with the Rangers about inconsistency. One moment you're talking about how good they are, the next moment you're talking about how bad they are. They can't build a consistent winning streak. They can't build even a consistent losing streak, which is why inconsistency is a thing with them. Because you can't build, they're not a consistent losing team, but they're not a consistent winning team. So I guess you got to take, there's a positive that they're not a consistent losing team. They don't get on these 5-6 game losing streaks, but they're also not on a team that's going to be able to burst out and get on these really 3-4 game win streaks. I mean, this is a team who wins 2 to 3 games and then they start losing. And then they win some more, then they lose, right? So Rangers got to find some balance of consistency in order to make a push to the playoffs. But luckily the Bruins did lose yesterday, so that helps. Even if we lose, it would be nice if we could win and they would lose, but not everything always goes as planned. So if we lose, they got to lose too, because then that means we still remain. Right now, we are now behind them, 5 points behind them, so we were 3 going into the weekend. We are now 5, so, not looking great, but it's better than, being 10 points behind them. We got to continue to try and win these upcoming games because we got to continue to just gain ground, because they also have 3 games in their pocket. They have 3 less games than us, so if it comes down to trying to win it, they have 3 more games than us. So those 3 games could very well be high point games. Who knows? We'll see how it plays out. But as for the Rangers, tough weekend for them. College basketball, very good weekend in college basketball. It was tough to see Loyola go down, to be honest. I was rooting for Loyola, was hoping they would win. But they couldn't get the job done. Oregon State's a good team, and I'm calling it today. Oregon State is a very good team. I'm calling it today. You got to watch out for Oregon State today against Houston. And I know Houston crushed Syracuse, and I know Houston barely beat Rutgers, and Rutgers is a good team, and I get that. But something about this Oregon State team, they're playing with a chip on their shoulder that I don't think, they are. They're playing with a chip on their shoulder. And I think when you get a team like Oregon State, who lost at the beginning of the year to the Portland Pilots. Who are they? They were 2-3 to start the year. They were projected to finish last. And they were projected to finish last in their respective conference. They are now in a situation where they could very well, they're now in an Elite 8 matchup. So, it's going to be fun. And I'm telling you, for a team that was projected to finish last in the Pac-12, is now in the Elite 8, it's going to be fun to watch. I think this game is going to be close. Not saying Oregon State will win, but I think it's going to be a close game. Baylor, Arkansas, I will give my opinion on that later, but Oregon State's going to be a fun game tonight. So another fun weekend of college basketball. Like I said, just another fun weekend in general. Sports, you had all the games on Friday. We got Yankees coming up this week. It's officially baseball week. Opening day is this week, April 1st. So a lot of exciting stuff coming up. Like I said yesterday, so today I'm going to talk a little bit about the Yankees, roster moves and stuff. We had a lot of stuff going on over the weekend with the Yankees. Then tomorrow, I think I'm going to do a league-wide thing. I kind of wanted to give my Cy Young Award projections, MVP, all that stuff. And then Wednesday, I was going to kind of give my Yankees-Mets season preview, although I got to watch out because Lindor and the Mets are supposedly really wanting to get the deal done before Thursday, their extension. So if that does happen, I'm going to talk about it. So I got to also work around that. Just know that baseball's coming up. We got baseball today. We got baseball tomorrow, baseball Wednesday, and then baseball Thursday. obviously baseball Thursday and baseball throughout the rest of the year. So we'll get into all that good stuff, but yeah, some really, really good topics today. These are the topics for today's podcast, speaking of the topics. So the Nets went out and made a signing again. The Nets go out and sign Lamarcus Aldridge of the former Spur. Had a really good career with the Spurs in his prime, was a very good player. When he was in his prime, was a big part of that Spurs team. That was, a really solid team, a couple years back. And in his prime, he was one of the better players out there. Not saying he was the best player in the league, but when he was in his prime, he was an all-star. He was an all-star. He was, a very good, he was just a very good all-around player. So the Nets signed Lamarcus Aldridge, and, we go ahead and add another piece to this puzzle. And I want to talk about this deal, give you my thoughts on it. As we know, they're adding another piece of the puzzle. And yes, I do know Andre Drummond signed with the Lakers. I know that. I might talk about it one of these days. I'm not sure. I don't think it caught us by any surprise. Since it's the Nets, I want to talk about the Nets. Andre Drummond, I've talked about him a couple times on this podcast, about him. He's been a name that has been tossed around. All I'm going to say is the Lakers got a really good player, and a player that's going to really help the Lakers, especially in a situation where their two stars are not in the lineup. LeBron and AD, Andre Drummond's going to be a guy that's going to be really able to help fill some of those shoes, try to fill those shoes. So, good signing by the Lakers. Tell you about the Nets signing. I'm not someone that's going to brag about this signing, but I'm not angry about the signing. I'm kind of in the middle. Like, it's a signing. He's a depth addition. He's going to get minutes. He's going to get his opportunity. We'll see how it all plays out. So we'll get into that. Then we'll get into the Yankees roster moves. The Yankees made a good amount of roster moves this weekend, or Friday into Saturday, Saturday into yesterday, and even today. We've made a good amount of roster moves. So roster moves are kind of coming in by the minute. So very well, when I record this podcast, the Yankees Tyler Wade could be on the opening day roster, but when I upload it, it could very well be Tyler Wade's not on the opening day roster. He could be sent in the minors. That's one of the big questions now. But obviously, I'm sure most of you have heard that Luke Voigt partially tore his knee. So Luke Voigt is now out for the first month of the season. So he's going to be out till May. Really, it means that he's going to be back in about June, because May, you got to do your rehab, all that stuff, come back. Then June, he'll play again. And you know how they treat these guys. They're very babyish with these guys. They take good care of them, which is good. But, if they feel a little bit of thing wrong, 10-day IL, 20-day IL, 6-day IL. So Voigt's going to be on the IL to start the year, which is really tough for the New York Yankees, because this is a guy who was a home run leader last year in the league and is now not going to be with the team on opening day. So the Yankees have decided now to call up not only Mike Tauchman, but they've also decided to call up Jay Bruce. Jay Bruce will be at first base. Mike Ford will also be the backup first baseman. And then when Luke Voigt comes back, they'll obviously switch all things around like that. Jay Bruce can obviously play first, and he can play the outfield. His main position, I believe, is first, but he can also play the outfield. I believe left field. He can almost play anywhere in the outfield. He's kind of like a utility guy. So we have Jay Bruce at first. Mike Ford will be backup, and then until Luke Voigt comes back, we'll just see what happens. Now, it's almost like a tryout, because let's just say Mike Ford starts hitting the ball really well. Well, then he might be the backup when Voigt comes back. Let's say Bruce is still hitting the ball well. We'll have to figure it out. And then one of the Yankees also decided to do, they option Davey Garcia. So that means Domingo Germán will get the fifth starter spot. So Davey Garcia is going to be back in AAA. So I don't know how I feel about the move. I'm okay with it, but I really do like Davey Garcia. I really do believe he's got a bright future. I'm sure he'll make it up sometime this season. Not just because not just because I like him, but I truly believe that the Yankees might call him up, bullpen guy, starter. You got a double header. You might ask him to pitch one of those games. So we'll see how it all plays out. But the Yankees made a ton of roster moves as they get closer to opening day. So we'll get into that. Then we'll get into New York Sports Update. Cap off all the good sports for the day, and cap off the Monday podcast as we start up a new week of sports. So with all that being said, this is the BSN podcast, and let's get right into it. So Lamarcus Aldridge signs 1-year contract with Nets after Spurs buyout. So the Spurs, a couple days ago, so a couple days ago, after the NBA trade deadline was over, Lamarcus Aldridge did not get traded. Andre Drummond did not get traded. Guys who did not get traded were bought out. More than likely were bought out. So Lamarcus Aldridge was bought out, And that pretty much means a buyout means, many of you probably know this, but pretty much a buyout means that the team goes ahead and just gives them the money and lets them go. So all their money, they just give it to them. They'll swallow the money that they gotta swallow, the money that they gotta take back, because obviously they might have gave a guy a lot of guaranteed money and they might just turn it to dead cap and cap that they're just gonna have to take, almost like the Eagles situation with Carson Wentz. So they bought him out. They just which means they kind of be like, oh, here's your money, you can leave, kind of push him out the front door. And Lamarcus Aldridge was then on waivers, was a free agent for any team to pick him. I mean, it could have been any team. So buyouts are, in a way, it's almost like a free agency time where a guy hits the market, hits waivers, and you got to go through. So Lamarcus Aldridge talked with many contenders. He talked with the Miami Heat. Obviously, he talked with the Nets. I believe he talked with the Celtics. I believe he was in conversation with a West team. I'm not sure what team, but I believe there was a team in the West. I believe it was like 3 or 4 Eastern Conference teams and like 1 Western Conference team that he was talking to on about joining the team. Now, when he got bought out, a lot of people assumed, and so did I, that the Nets were going to take advantage of it, just because the Nets have been able to seem to do that a lot. And that's the one thing. A lot of people have been asking me this question, and I'll kind of give you like an answer now, and I'll kind of support it a little bit later on in the podcast. Do I like the Nets making all these moves? Well, it's not that I love the moves. It's just that, we're adding more and more talent. And, I felt at the beginning of the year, I felt the Nets were in a good position where they were. I thought the Nets with Kyrie, with KD, were in a good position. Found out that wasn't the case. The Nets actually, the first 10 games this season, relatively struggled. We were 6-4, 5-5. We were not 8-2, 9-1, what most of the league thought we were going to be. We were not the 1 seed. We were, as a matter of fact, I believe we were like the 5 seed. We started out with a slow start, and I think there was reason to be concerned at the beginning of the year. Sure enough, we got out, got James Harden. I was mad about the move. We brought him in. So we brought him in. James Harden's been, you could say he's in the MVP conversation now. So back to the point here with Lamarcus Aldridge is, do I like the move? Right? This is a move for the Brooklyn Nets that it's not going to be a game changer. It's not going to be a move that's going to decide whether the Nets are a NBA Finals team or just a regular, ordinary playoff team. Because I think by now we can all agree that the Nets are a playoff team. And I know that they still got to get there, and they could very well go on a long losing streak. I don't think that's going to happen. I'm very confident now that the Nets are a playoff team. And, we're 31-15. We're the 2nd seed in the East. We're playing the Timberwolves tonight, which is a very winnable game. We've got to beat the Timberwolves. It's a very winnable game. Kyrie's back. We got Harden, obviously, still in the lineup. It's a very winnable game. Against 11-35 Timberwolves team. And the Nets are obviously 31-15. So a very winnable game. So I do think the Nets are a playoff team, and I think we can all agree on that. I think at the beginning of the year we could agree on that. But through the first 10, 15 games, there might have been some people that thought this might be a concern. Well, obviously it wasn't, and the Nets are now rolling. But back to the Lamarcus Aldridge point. Like I said, I don't think this is going to be a move that's going to propel us to NBA Finals. I think the 3 players that we have, Harden, KD, and Kyrie, are going to decide whether we make the Finals or not. Their performances in the playoffs, their performances late in the season are going to decide whether we get to the NBA Finals, and ultimately are going to decide if we win an NBA championship. So, like I said, I don't think it's going to be a move. But this move reminds me of the Blake Griffin move. Blake Griffin move we made a couple weeks ago, or about a week or 2 ago. And Blake Griffin, so far, he's played 3 games with us. He's done well in 2 games. His first game, he was on a minutes restriction, so he didn't get much playing time. But that's also because he was recovering from an injury. His second game, he didn't get as many minutes. I believe he had like 8 points. And then most recently against the Detroit Pistons on Friday night, He had a 17-point game, had really good, played his most minutes of the season, played really well, was very physical, actually got a technical foul, was very physical. So he's been solid. Is he the Blake Griffin we used to see? No. And this is what I want to get to Lamarcus Aldridge. Is this the Lamarcus Aldridge we saw when he was making All-Stars games every year, when he was part of that Spurs team that was really competitive, getting to championships, getting to the finals? Was he a part of that team, or was he a big part of that team? Yes. Now, are we getting Lamarcus Aldridge in his prime? No, we aren't. And that's where I want to get to the point here. It's not that I don't think he's good anymore, because Lamarcus Aldridge, he can still go out there, give you a couple points, give you some rebounds, give you quality minutes. But all these people out there saying that this is a move, look at the Nets, oh, Blake Griffin, Lamarcus Aldridge, like, yes, we got them. It's big names. Lamarcus Aldridge is not the Lamarcus Aldridge we saw a couple years ago. We saw throughout the beginning of his career. And like I said, that doesn't mean that he's not good anymore. He's just not the same Lamarcus Aldridge. So it's a move that I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh yeah, we got him, let's go. It's a depth addition. Steve Nash said that he's going to receive quality minutes at center, which, hey, that's another reason. Hey, if he can get rebounds, if he can score points, if he can get putbacks and rebounds, that's all I'm asking for. Because DeAndre Jordan can't do that. Nick Claxton has done it well. Maybe we find our second center. It's also adding another big guy to the lineup. And to be honest, it's adding another big name. So the Nets are just adding on. And people can hate about it. People can go on and on and on about this move. People might hate this move. I mean, there's NBA fans out there who despise the fact that the Nets are going out and getting another person. People are calling this Nets team, after they got LaMarcus Aldridge, people are overreacting to this move a little bit. They're overreacting to the move. This is LaMarcus Aldridge now. Think about it for a second. This is not LaMarcus Aldridge 5 years ago. This is now LaMarcus Aldridge. Not the same LaMarcus Aldridge. Not as powerful. Not as good. But that doesn't mean that I'm calling him bad. It's just not the same LaMarcus Aldridge we're used to seeing. It is now a new, out of his prime LaMarcus Aldridge. So people got to realize that. And to those fans out there who are hating on the Nets, well, I expect it. But you got to also bring it into big picture. I mean, this is a team that has never won an NBA Finals. When you get an opportunity, you just got to build. And I have no problem with it. You know, I had an issue when the Nets signed Harden because I was like, okay, now we're giving up our entire young core dedicated to just this season. And I was like, what are we doing to this team? Like, we had KD, Kyrie, we had a solid young core behind them. Then we go out, give up our young core, bring in a guy who had problems in Houston. I was like, what are we doing for this team? It's like we took the Nets and we took the Nets and threw them and brought in like this new Brooklyn Nets. And I was like, just doesn't seem right. And obviously it worked. We're bringing in Blake Griffin. We brought in LaMarcus Aldridge. We're bringing in all the big names. We're bringing in guys that we ultimately think will help us, try and get to the finals. And like I said, do I think this will be the deciding factor? No. It's a move. It's depth addition. Although I did find it interesting because when this move came down, I did find it interesting that they said that Steve Nash said that he will receive quality minutes. I did find that interesting. Because you got to realize Nick Claxton's ahead of him and DeAndre Jordan's also ahead of him. Now, maybe they go ahead and run a 3 centers and they go ahead and say, hey, all right, DJ's going to go out there play. Claxton's going to go out there play. And then, he's going to get his minutes as well, Aldridge. And you'll figure out. Maybe they run a little bit of a tryout in a way. And you go out and see who's the best. Because by playoff time, if DeAndre Jordan's in the starting lineup, I'm not going to be happy with that. I think right now, Claxton should be in the starting lineup for the Brooklyn Nets. It shouldn't be on DeAndre Jordan. Or, if they're not going to run a center, if they're going to run Bruce Brown, Harris, Harden, Jeff Green, and Kyrie, then it should be the first center off the bench should be Claxton. Because the Nets have been going small recently. But some games we go big. I think it really all depends on what the other team's throwing at us. Like tonight, they got Karl-Anthony Towns on the other side, so I wouldn't be surprised if we go big first because Karl-Anthony Towns is a very good player, a very good big, power forward, all that good stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised if we go big. We go DJ, Bruce Brown, Harris, Kyrie, and Harden. But against a team that's smaller, against a smaller team, or a team right now like the Knicks who are struggling at center, Mitchell Robinson just broke his foot. Right, or a team that's struggling at center, is losing centers, doesn't have much center depth, we might go with a smaller lineup. So I think it all depends on who you're playing, what night, how the guy's doing. I think all of that goes into making the lineups because you got to obviously do what's best to try to beat the other team. You can't just put in a lineup every night and hope it works. You got to also do what's best to the team. So I did find that interesting with Steve Nash saying that he's going to receive quality minutes because he's an older player and he's a guy that is definitely getting up there in age. He's not. Right? We'll see how it all plays out. But this is a guy who, obviously, and that's another thing, too. We're bringing a veteran into a locker room. another veteran into the locker room. We're bringing a guy that knows how to win. This is a guy who did it a lot in San Antonio. The Spurs in general did it. They had a 22-year playoff streak or something like that was just snapped last season. So the Spurs knew how to win. He was in a winning culture with the Spurs. Hopefully he brings some of that winning culture here to the Nets, where the Nets don't really have not established a winning culture unless if we do great things this year, which we have been doing so far. But we obviously got to get to the next level and win a championship. But back to the point with Aldridge is a guy, another reason. Maybe you just take his play on the court away out of the equation. You could think of it as, look at this. Look at it this way. And you could go ahead and say, hey, this is a guy who's coming in with a winning culture. He's going to ultimately try his best to win games. We're bringing a veteran into a locker room, and ultimately he knows how to win. And a lot of times teams do that. And I know the Nets already have that. And Kyrie and Harden, Kyrie and KD, have already won championships. Harden has never won a championship. Blake Griffin has never won a championship. So we'll see how Lamarcus Aldridge does. We'll see if he is, bringing a veteran guy that's coming from a winning organization in San Antonio, a team that had a really a really long playoff streak there. Obviously, he was never with the Spurs apart. He was never obviously with the Spurs for a championship, but the fact that he is still a guy that the fact that he's still a guy that's coming from a team that won a lot in his 6 years with the team. Obviously, it's the truth. Or 6 years, 2015 to 2021. So 5 full years and then like a half a year this year. So 5.5 years with the Spurs. He did a lot of winning there. Did he win a championship? No. But he did do a lot of winning. And he was coming from a winning culture. So hopefully we can bring some of that here to Brooklyn. And hopefully at the end of the season we're talking about a Nets championship. That's all I'm asking for. We make all these moves, we better win. We better win. That's all I'm asking for. At the end of the day, if we win a championship, we're going to forget about, the Harden move. We're going to forget about all that stuff because we're going to be so caught up in the fact that we won a championship, and that's all that matters. So Lamarcus Aldridge signs 1-year contract with Nets after Spurs buyout. Lamarcus Aldridge is headed to Brooklyn. The 7-time All-Star who was bought out by San Antonio Spurs at the trade deadline after 6 seasons signed a 1-year veteran minimum deal with the Nets on Saturday, per Shams Charania of the Stadium and the Athletic. Aldridge agent Jeff Schwartz confirmed to ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski that his client signed with Brooklyn. Miami Heat were the front runners to sign the center, but Aldridge planned to talk with several teams, according to Wojnarowski. The 35-year-old had appeared in 21 games this season and averaged 13.7 points, his lowest since his rookie season, and 4.5 boards, a career low. He saw just 25.9 minutes per game, but he was limited by a hip injury and stomach illness. Aldridge appeared in 53 games for the Spurs last season and averaged 18.9 points and 7.4 rebounds, a year removed from his second of two consecutive All-Star selections. There was no problem there. We just think it is a win-win for both Lamarcus and for the club, Spurs head coach Greg Popovich told reporters on March 10th. So when an opportunity arises, that'll be up to management, his agent, that sort of thing. We'll all move forward. Aldridge joins a loaded Nets team that sits second in the Eastern Conference with a 31-15 record. The superstar trio of Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, James Harden has rarely played together this year due to injuries and other reasons. So the Nets' mark is undoubtedly impressive given the shorthanded roster. I was reading this thing yesterday, and I kind of already knew it already, but I didn't know the exact number. But I knew that the big three for the Brooklyn Nets didn't play many games. The Brooklyn Nets and the big three, KD, Kyrie, and Harden, have only played 7 games together. So, you also got to realize, when Harden got here, Kyrie was out for personal reasons. So it was just Harden and KD. And then when Kyrie got back, they were playing, and then KD got injured. So now it's Harden and Kyrie. And there's been a couple times where Kyrie's been out with Harden. So now it's just Harden, right? But Kyrie's back tonight. So the Nets, as much as people want to say it's the big three, it's been, you can't even call it a big two or a big one. I guess you can't call it. Harden's only missed, I believe, 1 game with the Brooklyn Nets that he's been eligible to play in. When he came here, he obviously wasn't going to play the day he got traded because he couldn't. He had past protocols. He had to officially sign off on the deal. And also, he wasn't able to travel from Houston to the Nets were playing the Knicks that night in an hour. He wasn't able to do that. It's impossible. So when he was eligible to play, he's only missed one game, Harden. So Harden's been in the lineup. KD's been out, obviously with an injury. And Kyrie's he's out one night, then back in. No long-term stuff for Kyrie, although he just missed 3 games due to personal reasons. So he's back tonight, though, which is good news for the Nets. Move forward. And on this, it says the Nets are 30-15, but I believe the Nets are 31-15. Let's see here. Yeah, 31-15. So on here, it was wrong. This article was wrong then. It said 30-15, but the Nets are actually 31-15. I knew they were 31-15. I said it earlier. All right, so anyway, short-end roster. Adding a player like Aldridge helps stem the tide of any loss, though, as the productive scorer and rebounder should immediately become an impact player down low. Per Wojnarowski, Aldridge is expected to see a significant amount of his minutes at center, which is probably from Nash, people close to Nash and Wojnarowski. So, significant amount of minutes, I'm surprised. I thought this would be a depth addition, but hey, if that's what they feel is best for the team, go ahead and do it. He joins the recently added Blake Griffin, the 6-time All-Star, whom the Nets signed on March 8th. That's crazy it was March 8th. That was 21 days ago. I feel like so it's exactly 3 weeks ago. That move happened over the weekend, I guess, because then I came out and talked it on Monday. Wow. He's been on the Nets for 21 days and has only played 3 games. That's not great. That's not ideal. But at the same time, again, had to pass COVID protocols. He had knee stuff going on, so he didn't miss it. NBA, I like it, but it's a interesting league when it comes to whether you're going to play or not. Because some of these guys have, like, knee management, and it's the most confusing thing ever. Like, just go out there and play. Or you'll get some players that out for personal reasons, which certain personal reasons is okay. But when you don't tell the team and you just don't show up to the stadium for 2 weeks is a problem. So, we'll see how it all plays out. But, hey, the Nets are signing Lamarcus Aldridge, and hopefully he can make an impact when he's out on the floor. And that's all I'm asking for. Like I said, I'm not asking for this guy to turn into prime Lamarcus Aldridge, although that would be nice. I'm asking for this guy to go out, give me quality minutes, give me 20 minutes a game, however many we play him. Give me, 10, 15 points or so if he's out there for that long. And, give me not 10 rebounds, but 6 to 7, 8 boards. And that should be good. And I don't think that's asking for much. 6 boards a game is not that much. Especially for a guy like him that's been grabbing rebounds for his whole career. He's 35 years old. He's grabbed a lot of rebounds in his career. So let's take a look at some of the other numbers with him. Then we'll get into the Yankees. Lamarcus Aldridge. Here we go. Let's see here. All right, so like I said, this season he's averaging 13.7 points per game, 4.5 rebounds, and 1.7 assists. And like I said, he's 35 years old. He's been in the league for a really long time. He played with Portland his entire first part of his career from 2006 to 2015. And then he was with the Spurs from 2015 to obviously this season. It's a guy, too, who throughout his career has played a good amount of games. He's played 1,024 games, which is another thing, too. He's played 1,024 games. He's seen a lot of things happen. He's been through highs and he's been through lows with this. Mostly highs, though, is because he's been on very good teams. So, it's a guy who has played 1,024 games. He knows what it's like. He knows how it is. This guy's been playing since 2006. So, he knows what he's doing. And that's another thing, too. We're adding a veteran to a locker room. And throughout his career, he's played some good minutes. I mean, his career average is 34.2 minutes. But when he was young and he was in his prime, he was putting up his one season, he put up 39.6 minutes. He was almost putting up 40 minutes a game. This was a guy that was about putting up 35, 36, 37 minutes a game when he was in his prime, which is big for a center because centers are getting knocked around in the paint. Centers are getting hit, doing a lot of stuff, running up and down the court, grabbing rebounds, passing it out, setting screens. Centers are doing a lot on the court. People don't realize that. Centers are doing a lot. They're jumping up for rebounds while getting hit by 3 other guys. So to play near 40 minutes a game for a 48-minute game is pretty good. Throughout his career, he's a 49.1% field goal percentage. So, not something, it's not great, but 49% is pretty good. Like I said, when he was in the prime of his career, he could shoot up to 51%, which was good. A guy who attempts about 16 field goals per game and makes about 7.8 of them. So, in that range of about 50%. 3-point percentage, I don't really care about that. He's not going to be a guy that's going to shoot much. He shoots about 0.6 3-point points. He shoots about 0.6 3-pointers per game. 0.6, that's not even one per game. So this season, he's shot 3.6 per game. So about only like 3 a game this season. Which is nothing compared to some guys who will throw up 14, 15. Free throw percentage, 81.1%. For a center, that's actually pretty good for his career. But like I said, if you look recently, that's the one thing that his free throws have kept up. 85, 81, 83, 84, 82, 83, which automatically is an upgrade over DeAndre Jordan. Rebounds in his career, 8.3. When he was in his prime of his career, 11 rebounds, 10 rebounds. So definitely the numbers have decreased a little bit, but this is a guy who's going to go out there and get the job done and give you quality minutes and 19.4 points per game in his career. So, obviously the past 2 seasons he's dropped a little bit, but obviously that's expected to come as he is 35 years old. And, so we'll see how it all goes. And he's 35 and he actually turns 36 this summer. So in July he turns 36. So he's 35 years old now. He's played in the league for a really long time. He's seen a lot of stuff happen. He's played a lot of games, 1,024 games. So we're bringing a veteran into a locker room. He's not Lamarcus Aldridge that we are used to seeing, but at the end of the day, we're bringing a big man in. We're bringing a guy that ultimately helps us. Bringing in a guy that obviously helps us win games. That's all I'm asking for, and ultimately, collectively, we can win a championship. Not just him win a championship, like I said earlier. Collectively, win a championship and bring the first championship to the Brooklyn Nets franchise. That would be a great way to end a good season, I would say. But anyway, that's what I got for Lamarcus Aldridge. Comment down below your thoughts on the deal, your thoughts on just, NBA in general. You can comment down below your thoughts on the Andre Drummond deal, thoughts on Nets deal, anything like that. All the good comments there. But coming up next, I'm going to get into the Yankees roster moves. The Yankees had a lot of moves happen this weekend as we get closer and closer and closer. It is officially opening day week today. Monday, March 29th, we are getting closer to April 21st, which is ultimately opening day, which is 4 days away, 3 days if you're not counting today. So about 4 days away from opening day. As we get closer and closer, Yankees are making more moves. We'll get into that coming up next. Alrighty, let's get into this here. Alright, so there's so much stuff I gotta do, or talk about here. But let me give a little bit of, let me give you a little bit of let me give a little bit of a kind of an update on the Yankees situation as we have officially hit opening day week here in the MLB. And like I said, I will get to the Mets. So if you're a Mets fan wanting some more Mets content, I will get to the Mets. I promise I'm going to do a full Yankees-Mets season preview either tomorrow, and I'm sure if Lindor gets the deal done, I will talk about Lindor. I mean, I just talked about Lindor and the Mets and stuff. I talked about Lindor the other day. So let's get to some Yankee stuff. So as we creep closer to opening day, roster moves are going to have to be done. And, as we all say, business of sports kicks in. And, sometimes that could be good, sometimes that could be bad, because sports are always great and all, but at the end of the day, it is a business, and sometimes tough decisions have to be made. And the Yankees made some decisions that I'm sure were not easy for them to make this weekend. But anyway, let's get into some of the moves, and especially the one move that the New York Yankees made. So we'll get into some of the moves here. So to kind of give you a little bit of a timeline here of New York Yankees. So I talked about Friday, about the Yankees situation involving one of the more interesting roster decisions of them all, Mike Tauchman and Jay Bruce. who's going to make the opening day roster. Before Luke Voigt's injury, there was only going to be one of them. There was only going to be one that was going to make the roster. Now, unless if you get rid of another guy that makes the roster, there's only going to be one of them that makes the roster. The other one was either going to get released or sent down to the minor leagues, or in Mike Tauchman's case, their trade value is heating up for Mike Tauchman. So New York, although I think we all knew all along the Yankees weren't interested in trading Mike Tauchman, even if they didn't put him on the opening day roster. So to the point here with the New York Yankees, and the whole situation here involving their roster. So the New York Yankees have decided to call up Mike Tauchman and Jay Bruce, not really call up, but have decided that they will be on the opening day roster. So on April 1st, when the New York Yankees throw the first pitch against the Toronto Blue Jays, Jay Bruce and Mike Tauchman will be at the stadium on the opening day roster. Now, Mike Tauchman will probably not be starting that day because he's a backup. Jay Bruce has found himself into a starter role. He's going to be starting first base on the opening day for the New York Yankees. So they've decided to call up both those guys. And to be honest, I said this on Friday. I said with Tauchman, I think if you're talking about a guy that's not going to play every day, I would rather Tauchman. But Bruce is getting an extended opportunity. It's a guy that's going to play a lot. It's a guy that's going to play almost every day until Luke Voigt comes back. Now, he is older, so they might split time a little bit more. But this also does mean that Mike Ford is now going to be on the Yankees starting opening day roster. So Mike Ford will be the backup, which creates an interesting situation. When Voigt comes back, does Mike Ford get optioned to AAA, or does Mike Ford stay and does Jay Bruce go to the outfield? That's going to be an interesting decision the Yankees are going to have to make, and I think that could very well be decided on how the two field and hit the first 2 months of the year. Because I can almost tell you this: as much as I would want Voigt to come back in May, I think you can almost say it's going to be like a June. Assuming it's about a month or so recovery, then he's going to come back. He's going to have to, recover a little bit more. He's going to have to actually get live action, get some action out there, rehab stuff, then he'll be back. That takes a little long. That takes a little bit. So it's going to take some time for him to be back. So I can almost guarantee to you that it's going to take some time for Voigt to come back. So Bruce and Ford are both going to get an extended role. Now, Bruce, I believe his entire career, his main position has been first. But recently, as he's gone older and as he's turned into more of a utility guy, they've put him in the outfield. So I like the fact that Bruce is at first. I do like Ford a lot. I know a lot of Yankees fans did not like a lot of his production last year, and Ford did struggle. But I got to also tell you this, and I'll say this too about Andujar. It's tough to, with no AAA last season, and when they got optioned to the alternate site, there was no games going on. They were just getting BP thrown to them. So it's tough to keep up with your hitting and your fielding if you're not getting any live game action when you get sent down to the alternate site. Hopefully this year, now that minor league is back, they can actually get some good minor league action going, and they can get some good, they can get at-bats and they get some live ABs against live pitching. So I gotta say that. But I do think Ford has remarkable power, and when he's on, he's a very good hitter. And I still strongly believe, Ford's still got a lot to learn. He's still got a lot to develop. He's a good player right now, but there's a lot more for him to do to really be that guy that could be a really solid piece in an everyday lineup in the MLB. I believe Ford will be able to get there. It's just going to take some more learning and growing from him, because you also got to realize this is a guy that is not like a Gleyber Torres, who is a highly touted prospect. This is a guy who kind of slipped onto the roster, has made a mark. He's made a mark. If he hasn't made a mark, then he wouldn't be on the opening day roster. So Ford is going to probably make the roster. I think he is. I don't see why the Yankees wouldn't go with him. They don't have a backup first baseman then. So we'll see how it all plays out. Voigt's injury, though, is a torn pec. Or not torn pec, sorry. A partially torn knee. Torn pec is another guy, Eloy Jimenez. So a partially torn knee, which might sound bad, partially torn knee isn't good. Using the word tore for any part of your body isn't good. Whether that's a knee, tearing any ligament, whatever the case may be. I'm not going to get into the parts of the bodies where you could tear stuff. But anyway, back to my point here. Tearing any part, especially for an athlete, is not good. And especially for a guy like Voigt, who, is an infielder, a guy who's going to be running a lot, a guy who hits well, and he's going to be running the bases. A guy for 2 who has had some problems with his lower half. He had a foot injury. He's had a couple leg problems. So he's had some stuff going on. He had a foot injury, obviously, last season. So he's had a lot going on in the lower half. His feet, now his foot, now his knee. So, it's just another setback for him, which I'm sure is frustrating for not only me and fans, but obviously because it's not frustrating, not that I'm frustrated at Voigt. It just stinks. Every year we go through this with the New York Yankees. Injuries. And so far, knock on wood, and hopefully it stays this way, Judge and Stan have been healthy. And that's been very good. And, Voigt has got to, hopefully he comes back strong and he comes back good because it's a big bat in the lineup. And I was talking to someone about this yesterday. It's a huge bat in the lineup we're missing. So, and not even just a huge bat. He's a good defensive first baseman. So we'll see how it all plays out there. But it gives Bruce and Mike Ford an opportunity. Now back to my point with the starting pitching. Now this was the other move. This was the first move of the moves they made this weekend. And another thing I thought Aaron Boone said that was interesting. When they said Tyler Wade would take up the final roster spot for the New York Yankees, he said that's not the case. Some other options could still occur. So we'll see how it all plays out. Wade did get a hit yesterday. So, maybe he does go ahead and he did get a hit. He has not played well, though, in spring training. I believe he's batting like .220. So we'll see how it goes with him. But it's an interesting response for Boone to say that that's not necessarily the case. Because who are you going to take? Derek Dietrich, they released him from his minor league contract. So do you go ahead and, bring Derek Dietrich back? Because he can play the infield and put Tyler Wade to the AAA? What do you do? And that's another roster move the Yankees made. So it's going to be interesting to see how it goes. They also released Robinson Chirinos, who is a catcher. So it looks like they are going to be going with Higgy and Sanchez on opening day. No question about that. So it's going to be interesting to see how these moves go. Because, if you don't bring up Tyler Wade, who's going to be the next guy? It's a little intriguing. And I think by their last spring training game today, they're going to have to find out who's going to be in the lineup and, who's not going to be in the lineup. So we'll see how it goes. But anyway, back to my point here with the pitching. So the Yankees also decided this weekend to option Davey Garcia to AAA. So he will be down in AAA, Scranton, Wilkes-Barre Rail Riders. As Herman were kind of battling it out for that 5th spot. Herman had a very good spring training. They decided ultimately that Herman will be the Yankees starter or the Yankees 5th starter. So the Yankees obviously starters now are looking like it's going to be Cole, Kluber, Tyone, Montgomery, and then Herman. And that 5th spot was the big question. Is it going to be Herman? Is it going to be Garcia? Who's it going to be? It is Herman. And I think Herman has played very well this season or this spring training. He has done a very good job of, locating his fastball. His off-speed has been amazing, picked up right where he left off. And for a guy that didn't play all last year, obviously was suspended with the off-the-field stuff he had, you would think his off-speed stuff, his stuff would be off to start the season. That was not the case. He's had a very good spring, very promising spring, and showed us that this is a guy that obviously this is a guy that he showed that he can be a solid pitcher. He showed that he can pick up right where he left off with the New York Yankees, and hopefully he does that. And that's the one move. Is I like Herman, who's a good pitcher and all that, and he's showing some good stuff, but it's the tough part of baseball and the tough part of sports in general is they had to make a decision, and they had to option Davey Garcia. And we all know as Yankees fans, Davey Garcia has had a really good run with the New York Yankees during his time here. Now, he's still very young, and I'm sure he'll definitely get another chance with us. But this is a guy last year that played really well. He had a really good season last year. So for him to, get optioned to AAA is obviously, I'm sure, a little frustrating for him. But it just gives an opportunity to keep on working, and, we'll see if he can work his way back up to the major leagues. And like I said, double headers, a day that you might just feel like he gets an opportunity. You call him up, he goes out, pitches, and then, we'll see how it all goes. But, I did bring up this point yesterday. I like Monty a lot, Jordan Montgomery, I like him a lot. But I was just thinking, what if you went Herman Garcia, Monty, what do you do with Monty? But then I was kind of thinking, you need that lefty in your rotation. You can't have 4 righties, which is what the Yankees, you can't have 5 righties, 5 righties. The Yankees have 4 righties and a lefty. So the Yankees already are not a lefty-heavy pitching staff. Getting a lefty would be good, but, if you could have 4 good righties, I'm okay with it. So, but the Yankees, that's another reason why. Is because you need that lefty in your pitching staff. You need a lefty in Monty. So, we'll see how that goes. But that's another decision the Yankees made. So, I don't know how I feel about that decision. I like Herman. I think he's going to be a good pitcher as well. But, I think it was the right decision. But it just doesn't seem real to me. Davey Garcia started a playoff game last year, and now he's in the minor leagues. I feel like something's missing. I feel like he should be in the rotation, but it's not like he's going to be able to go over anyone. And maybe that's just because I like Davey Garcia a lot and I want to see him in the rotation. But I don't know why. It just seems like there's still a spot there for him to do it. I just don't know where. You can't go after Cole. You can't go after Kluber, Tyone. Obviously, not Monty. I brung up maybe Monty yesterday when I was talking about someone, but with someone yesterday. But then we brung up the point that he's a lefty and you can't go 5 righties. Now, you could, but it's not a good idea to go 5 righties in a pitching rotation. So, we'll see how it goes. But, I think these are just the moves that, these are the moves that ultimately have to be made. And these are the moves that the Yankees felt were best. And like I said, Herman had a very good spring. He did earn a spot on the roster. He did earn a spot on the 5th starting role. And I'm sure Davey Garcia will make his way up to the majors again. So, but obviously, like I said, I'm a guy that's going to talk about it. Obviously, the Yankees feel that the best. Obviously, they feel that that the best decision for the team was to play these guys, and we'll see how it all plays out. Let's look at some other stuff. I don't even want to get into that. But 5 first basemen the Yankees could look to target if Voigt suffers a setback. I don't even want to look at that. I don't even want to look at the word setback. He's got an injury. Let's get through the surgery. Let's get through the rehab. Then we could talk about when he's going to get back on the field, which is tough. So let's look at the Yankees rotation here, if I can get it. We obviously read it, but I can look at the order here. Obviously, Britton's also out here. Obviously, you got Zach Wilson, Justin Wilson. Zach Wilson's the NFL quarterback, or the college quarterback that's potentially that's going to be an NFL quarterback, potentially the Jets' next quarterback. But yeah, so Justin Wilson, obviously a guy who is a good player. He obviously had a little bit of an injury with his shoulder, but he should be good to go. Chad Green. So the Yankees, even though we missed Britton, which Britton's a huge loss, even though we missed Britton, we still have a good rotation, or in the bullpen. We still have a solid bullpen. So, and that's where I like some of the moves that we made this season, was the bullpen additions. So, all that good stuff. And, we're going to see how it goes. But the Yankees, obviously, today play their final spring training game. Today. So, we'll see how also that goes. So, the Yankees still got a lot of stuff to do. They still got a lot of stuff to take care of before opening day. Still got to decide what they're going to do with Tyler Wade. But the bullpen, pitching rotation set for hopefully what is a World Series leading season. And this is when you get really excited. Final game of spring training. All eyes are now set on trying to bring another World Series to the New York Yankees. So we'll see how all that plays out. But obviously, Yankees with a ton of roster moves. And obviously, I think all these roster moves will impact them, in some ways. Like I said, I think Davey Garcia will find his way to come back up eventually. I definitely think there's a good opportunity. I don't think this is the guy that's going to sit in the minors the entire year. Like I said, doubleheader. You need a guy to pitch another game or something like that. You go out there, throw him. Anything like that. So, New York Yankees, we're going with Cole, Kluber, Tyone, Monty, and Herman as our starting 5 rotation. And as Jay Bruce at first, Voigt's obviously out, and then you got the rest of the players. You got guys like, Judge and guys like that, LeMahieu. So hopefully this is a lineup and this is a team that's going to result in our 28th World Series title. That's obviously the goal. So let's get into the New York sports update here and close out this podcast. So obviously over the weekend, we had a lot of really good college basketball stuff. So on Saturday, Houston won, Arkansas won, Baylor won, and Oregon State won. Arkansas, Oral Roberts almost won. They almost won. They had a chance at the buzzer. They ended up missing it. Baylor came back against Villanova. Syracuse came out flat. Baylor had a good game too, late game. As for yesterday, USC won, UCLA won, Michigan won, and Gonzaga won. UCLA, they're a good team. They're playing really well. So, they're playing really well. So I would definitely watch out for them because they're a team that they're feisty. They're also coming in with a chip on their shoulder. As for today's game, we got Houston and Oregon State. I'm going to give Houston the win, although I wouldn't be surprised to see Oregon State win either, just because they're playing well. And then we got Baylor and Arkansas. I'm going to give Baylor the win. I don't think there's any question about that. Both those games are on CBS tonight, so those should be two good games. Excited for that. As for the NBA, obviously the Nets won on Friday, 113-111. And as for today, we got Pacers, Wizards. I'll give Pacers the win. Heat, Knicks, give Heat the win. Celtics, Pelicans, give Celtics the win. Grizzlies, Rockets, give Grizzlies the win. Magic, or Mavericks, Thunder, give Mavericks the win. Raptors, Pistons, give Raptors the win. Spurs, Kings, give Spurs the win. Jazz, Cavs, give Jazz the win. Clippers, Bucks, give Clippers the win. And Bulls, Warriors, give Bulls the win. Nets also play today. Nets come in this game 31-15. Timberwolves come in this game 11-35. The Nets are 12-point favorites. The over-under is 238 for this game. This game comes on today, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Yes. So that should be good. Hopefully the Nets pull out with another win. As for hockey, obviously the Rangers lost on Saturday 2-1. Lost yesterday 5-4. We were losing yesterday 3-0. We looked flat. Then we made a comeback, scoring 4 goals in the third period, but couldn't get the job done as we lost 5-4. So we are now 15-15-4 on the season. As for today's games, we got the Flyers, Sabres. I'll give Flyers the win. Penguins, Islanders. I'll give Islanders the win. Maple Leafs, Oilers. Give Maple Leafs the win. Avalanche, Ducks. Give Avalanche the win. Flames, Jets. Give Flames the win. Golden Knights, Kings. Give Golden Knights the win. And Wild, Sharks. Give Wild the win. And as for the MLB, the Yankees obviously split. They won on They obviously won. They lost on Friday, but they won on Saturday and lost yesterday. So today we got going the Mets, Cardinals. I'll give Mets the win. Astros, give Nationals. Astros, give Nationals the win. Phillies, Blue Jays, give Phillies the win. Rays, Orioles, give Rays the win. Braves, Red Sox, give Braves the win. Twins, Pirates, give Twins the win. Cubs, Diamondbacks, give Cubs the win. A's, Giants, give A's the win. Royals, Indians, give Royals the win. Reds, Mariners, give Reds the win. Padres, Rockies, give Padres the win. Rangers, Brewers, give Rangers the win. And Dodgers, Angels, give Dodgers the win. Yeah. So, as for today, we also got the Yankees playing today. Yankees versus Tigers. Yankees come in this game 14-11-2. Tigers come in this game 12-11-4. This game comes on today, 1:05 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Yes. So you can actually find this game on Yes today. Should be a good game. Tigers got Urena going, and the Yankees got Domingo Germán. So I'll give the Yankees the win as they close out spring training today. So we close out spring training. Tomorrow, there's some spring training games on as well, but that's for the rest of the league. Yankees close it out today, so we'll see how all that goes. But as for fantasy basketball, I won last game, 1,154 to 1,120. So I moved to 7-6 on the season. Today I've got going Kyrie Irving, Bradley Beal, Jimmy Butler, Jeremy Grant, Jonas Valanciunas, Fred VanVleet, Miles Turner, Pascal Siakam, Kyle Lowry, and Kemba Walker. And this is how it's looking right now. So this is the injury report. Bradley Beal's day-to-day. Beal hip is listed as questionable for Monday's game against the Pacers. Jeremy Grant's also day-to-day. Grant quad is listed as probable for Monday's game against the Raptors. And then Kyle Lowry's also day-to-day. Lowry has been ruled out for Sunday's game against the Trailblazers due to right foot soreness. Mark Stein of the New York Times reports. So that was yesterday. So no new news on him. And Oladipo, who's on my bench, he's playing tonight. Oladipo won't play Monday against the Knicks due to head cold. Tim Reynolds of the Associated Press reports. So he's going to be out. So he's out. The Heat are playing tonight, though. So I was, wondering if he was going to play, but he's obviously not going to play. So other than that, though, hopefully the team can get a good win. And as for fantasy hockey, I lost 108 to 83. So couldn't get the win, but today I've got going. I moved to 7-4 on the season. So today I've got going Anzes Kopitar, Johnny Gardue, Nicole Ehlers, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Shea Theodore, Adam Larson, and my goalies are Semyon Varlamov and Kaapo Kakkonen. So that's what I got there. So, obviously, fantasy hockey took a loss, but I can't complain too much because I've been rolling with wins. So 7-4 on the season, still in very good position. I'm still having a good season. So, can't win them all, but still having a good season. So, but anyway, with all that being said, that will do it for the podcast here today. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. Another packed sports podcast. Like I said, tomorrow into Thursday will be a lot of baseball stuff. And then with Francisco Lindor stuff, we'll find out. He very well could sign an extension very soon here. So we'll see if he gets an extension done before opening day. Obviously it's going to be an interesting thing to see how that all unfolds. But we'll see how that all unfolds, and if there is the deal that gets done, we will definitely talk about it. But other than that, I got a lot of good baseball stuff planned for these next upcoming podcasts heading into opening day, which should be super exciting. So with all that being said, that'll do it for the podcast here today. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. I will see you all back here tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.